Did a student ever inspire you?
Ooh. That's a good question, you know. That is a good question. You know, I can honestly say I haven't had that experience yet. No, I lie. I tell a lie. This week, we were doing assessments in the class, and you know, because SAT's coming up and everything else. And I teach, like I said, I teach the greater depth kids. I teach the top set. And one of the students in my class achieved 100% on her paper, on her reasoning paper, which is essentially problem solving with math skills. And I was amazed. And to be honest, I would always say it's her. It's down to her. She worked hard. She's a model student. She always gets things done. She tries her best. She doesn't get involved in the riffraff. But actually, it inspired me because I realize now that I'm very critical of myself. I'm very reflective, but I'm very critical of myself. And I always look for what can be done next as opposed to taking stock about what I've actually done well. And to see her get 100%, and then I went to go tell her mum, and I said, Mum, you know, you got a very intelligent daughter. She got this, this, and this. You know, if this was a SAT, she'd be flying, pass me with flying colours. And then Mum turned around and said to me, oh, and I said, are you Mr Semra? And then her daughter was like, oh yeah, this is Mr Semra I was telling you about. And I was like, what she said? And then she said, oh, Mr Semra, you know, my daughter talks all about you. She said she's the best teacher. And I looked at her, I said, I've only been here for like, 5 months? There's been teachers here before me. Well before me. Why do you think I'm the best teacher? She said, oh, the way that you teach, the way that you explain things, the mannerisms. So you're the best teacher I've ever had by far. And that's when I was inspired. I was inspired by her positive comments and her belief of my own ability. That inspired me to then continue with the way I'm doing it, which made me realize actually it's not all doom and gloom about what I do. It's more about I am doing things. It just takes time and takes patience for it to sink in. For a child like her, she appreciates it straight away. For other people, it'll take a bit more time. So I guess that's how I almost didn't have an inspiration there, but yeah, she did inspire me.
Did you ever disappoint your students or vice versa?
They both, I say it's both either way, and I can be honest enough to reflect, and I said, yeah, there were times that I disappointed them. Naturally, you know, I always tell them if we are like a team, so if one of you lets the team down, then we all suffer. And there was one time I was ill and I wasn't in. The behaviour was shocking. I was told by the teacher, the supply teacher, and they disappointed me. And I said to them point blank, and I always tell them that I take it. I make sure that they know I take it personally because they represent me and I represent them. And I always say we're meant to be the best class in the school. But there was a time where I did disappoint them, and I feel like they had every right to feel disappointed because there were some times where there was a wrong approach to take at the time. Well, at the time I thought it was the right approach, but it clearly had the wrong effect. They had a set of results. They did their tests and they had a set of results, and they did perform badly as a whole. And rather than doing trying to do a different approach, I went for the good cop, bad cop. So I went for the bad cop routine, where I posted their results on the screen, and in front of them, and I was like, and I said, I had every right. I said, you guys are not taking your education seriously. This is what you've got. We've got X amount of weeks left before this, and this is what you're producing. And it was a shock to them. It was a shock to them, and they were silent, they were stunned, more so about their own results as opposed to my own methodology or how I manage it. But when I looked in their faces and then I heard the conversations they were having afterwards, they felt really down and dejected. And that wasn't the effect I was trying to have. I was trying to have the kick out the backside effect. And they were down and dejected, and I looked at them and I said, and then the TA spoke to me afterwards, and they said, all that things you did, I understand it, but these kids are slightly different to how you were brought up. And there's a little bit more sensitivity. And the fact that I went harping on about being the best that you can do and everything else, which is all well and good, they already get pressured enough from home. And the following day I said to him, do you know what? I take back everything that I said yesterday. I will always be proud of what you produce so long as you try your best. I said to them, I don't mind if you get things wrong, as long as you try your best. When there's 1% that comes off your character, then we have an issue. And I said to them, I was brought up with a mantra that education is always important, as it is today. And my mum and dad, you know, they were on this hard and narrow path about being, you know, achieving your best and not giving up and all this stuff. And I just wanted to portray that onto you, not knowing that you guys are slightly different and had a different upbringing. So I would say that's one of the times where I'm disappointed.
Is multiculturalism a hindrance in achieving educational excellence?
From my experience, no. I think a multicultural society is a society that understands and appreciates the talents and the awe and the wonder of each culture that contributes towards it. And different cultures have different ways of doing things, and different cultures have different methods of raising their kids, of teaching valuable lessons, and etc. And sometimes when you go far back, as far as you want to, you find that some cultures are actually the same, just have sort of different variations of doing things. I mean, you always have the common jollof rice, for example. You've got the Nigerian version, the Ghanaian version, but at the end of the day, it's still jollof rice. We have ours in Eritrea, we have our own version, so the Egyptians or the Sahara, so it's all the same. But the beauty of it is that each and every culture, with what they can contribute, come together to develop a unified way of doing things, which is the school. The school is a product of many different children who bring in many different teachings and many different mentalities and many different ideas about how life is and personalities. And what you do is you harness that. You learn to appreciate the similarities, and you learn to take the differences as teaching points, as opposed to stark contrasts and saying, no, this way, no, my way is better, no, this way is better. So for me, multiculturalism doesn't hinder the educational success so long as the right outcomes are in place, so long as the right mentalities are in place to view it. Because if you view it with a kind of a half an eye, where you want to see what you want to see and you don't want to see what you want to see, then you never ever get the right outcome. But if you view it with an open mind and both eyes open, in fact, then you'll be able to take the positives from it and harness it to make a better outcome.
Are black boys disadvantaged with the current system, education system?
I think it extends beyond black boys. I just think black boys seem to be a byproduct of it because of their natural enthusiasm for everything that's not educational. I mean, a child will be disciplined differently at home than they are at school, and what I find is a lot of the children do not behave in the same way that they behave in school at home. I think it goes back to making those personal connections. It goes back to the teacher making the time out to make those personal connections. I always have a handshake, and I've looked on YouTube for these American teachers. They have different handshakes for different kids, and I wanted to do that. And every time I see a child, we have always a little handshake. Very difficult to learn, but you know, eventually you get there, and they appreciate it more. But I feel that when we were all in primary school, we had teachers that were perhaps quite far removed from the culture or the environment that we live in. And that's one of my unique selling points, that teaching in London, in the city that I grew up in, I know exactly how it is, I know exactly what's going, and I know exactly then how to be. Therefore, I never had any issues. I could be a white man and I would still not have any issues, because I would make difference. I could be a white woman and I wouldn't have any difference, because I would know exactly how to connect with them. However, it's the personal connections that you need to instill straight away. They need to know that you are here for them, and you're not here for you to be liked or for you to put on a show. You, as a teacher, you are a servant. You are serving the community, you are serving the children. You're not trying to be the star. You're not trying to be Mr. Popular, Mr. Likeable. That comes through what you give them and what you produce for them.
Yo. I don't need a coach. I don't need advice.
All right, good talk, coach. Thanks.